In the IMCA hobby stocks, it was Brett Const also picking up a broomy, and we are getting joined by my wife. Oh, this is awesome.
I'm
Anyways,
very, very surprised right now.
I am too. Oh, she's driving. This is not good. Becca, no. You are pregnant.
Oh my God, I'm concerned.
I'm always
What?
You should
I'm
not be.
super concerned.
This is really good.
Becca's first of all driving and pregnant. That's not a good combination.
I like to live life on the edge.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast for episode number 14 of season 3. We're recording this a little later than we did last week in preparations for who knows what's going to happen this upcoming weekend. But we got myself, Mason, Mr. Jessup Pelkey, and John Breckel for this episode once again. Becca, her schedule didn't quite line up to meet with us this week, and Jessup is off-site in a different location. So a little bit different format for the podcast this evening. But means we still have some great racing to talk about. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness, headlined by Tyler Hall out of Fertile, Minnesota. Be sure to go over to hitchharness.com and check out all the products he has. Of course, the signature product is the single or double style hitch harness, which you can store safely in the back of your truck for safe receiver hitch storage. You can check out the other products they have, such as chassis dollies and pull bar brackets, to make your life easier in the race shop as well. So thank you once again, Tyler, for supporting us on the podcast. We hope that you're able to knock down that first feature win of the season here very soon. And as you can see, the lineup has basically gone backwards from a week ago. I am now on the pole because we had some shenanigans between Mr. Breckel and Mr. Pelkey that the officials determined that both of them deserve to go to the back. And so Jessup second, because John got black flagged early in the episode. So that's the way the lineup is set for this week. So Jessup, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Mason. As Mason has alluded, I am off-site and back out east for a little bit. We're taking care of some stuff out here, and then we'll be turning and burning back towards Dacotah Speedway on Friday.
And race fans, just so you know, he made it out there safely. He had a little bit of an adventure getting over to the Duluth area the other day, and it's just good to see you're in one piece.
Yeah, something about driving headlong into a tornado watch storm, and we were sitting pretty. We were off on the southeast side of the storm, waiting for intercept of my first tornado, and it was definitely spinning off where I was sitting, and I decided to take shelter underneath a gas station for about 10 minutes, and then I saw a little clearing, and I was like, this is it. I gotta go now, or else I'm gonna be swamped in here till probably like 2. And I started driving. It was good, and all of a sudden, I drove in a monsoon from basically Pine City to Duluth.
That's a good amount of driving, but a
So
smart life choice.
I just drove straight through the whole thing.
Yeah, that might be a precursor to what this weekend might have in store for us. We'll see. Hopefully not on that level of Monsoonery, but John, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. It was a very kind of a low-key weekend for me. I basically went to a couple of races, but it wasn't the busy weekend that we've had the last couple of weekends before that. I am looking forward to this weekend. Weather is very questionable kind of across the board, so we'll kind of see that on how much racing action we do get in. I hope it's a lot, but again, we'll wait on Mother Nature here this weekend. But no, I'm ready to hit the ground running again here at the racetracks, and I'm really hoping that some of those touring series as well as big events can get their shows in this weekend here at the end of almost the June timeframe, because we hit July and we even get even busier.
Yeah, I coming off of 5 straight nights this past weekend, which honestly wasn't too strenuous or too tiring, just because all of them were pretty close. And actually, shout out to all the tracks; they all got done at a pretty decent time, so that actually helped out a lot getting home at a decent time each night. And so, gearing up for the weekend, like you said, who knows how much racing it's going to be coming to us this weekend, but hopefully it's a good amount and some good racing hopefully to take place. And so if you are a listener or a follower, be sure to like, share the videos, or subscribe to the various streaming platforms so you can stay up to date on all of our content. Of course, give us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple. We'd love to know who is all watching. And with that, we will officially start episode 14 with the waving of the green flag and get into who or what are you repping. Jessup, who or what are you repping?
Well, I'm not sure if I've worn this one already, but I'm wearing my Donnie Schatz hoodie, mainly to protect myself from the mosquitoes. And then I'm wearing my Jamestown Stampede green t-shirt.
Those t-shirts are nice, Joseph, aren't they?
I think so. I really like the green Stampede one.
I do too.
Yeah.
I think I was I there? I think I was there when you bought that at the
You
little
were.
trailer.
Mm-hmm.
He learned his lesson from previous years and not missing out on his gear.
This is true.
This is true. Sometimes
This
you
is
got to
so
buy
true.
it on the first day to guarantee that you get one.
This is so true.
Indeed. Well, cool, and it's very fitting because today is the first day of the big race down in Houston. So hopefully Donnie Schatz puts on a pretty good show this weekend down there.
Yep.
John, who or what are you repping?
Okay, so I went mod tour route because I think I've already wore this shirt maybe once before on a previous season. However, I wanted to wear it here because mod tour is only a few weeks away for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. I went a little bit older, so this is the 24th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour shirt. It is from 2013, and your 2012 champions were Hank Berry in the IMCA Modifieds and Sean Hovell in the IMCA Stock Cars. So again, kind of a very interesting group of drivers that were up here during that year in a very strong field. And a lot of big names have already registered here for the 2024 edition, the 35th annual Dakota Classic Modified Tour. And it'll be a fun time again, as the tour will start on July 6th over in Jamestown. Then they will go to Minot on the 7th of July. They will go north of the border to Estevan on the 8th of July. They will hit Williston on July 9th. July 10th, which is a Wednesday, will be over at the Southwest Speedway in Dickinson. And then Championship Night will be at the Dacotah Speedway in Mandan on July 11th. So before you know it, Mod Tour will be here in a few short weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of debating on how much of the tour I'm going on, because I actually have a lot of free time around that 4th of July, first or second week of July timeframe. So I'm like, I have some leeway, or I could make more than the typical tour stops that I do make over the last few years. So might see me on tour a little bit more. I haven't quite decided yet.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah, I always like to get at least a couple of those shows in, and it's nice to kind of get a variety, especially when I haven't hit too many North Dakota tracks to start this year. So that'd be a good opportunity to do that.
Now, just remember, drivers and race fans, as Mason comes on tour, don't be surprised. You may see some clouds form to maybe the west, maybe the north, maybe the south, and maybe right on top of you on the racetracks, as he is going to try to bring some extra tack into the tracks here during the 2024 edition of the Dakota Classic Modified Tour.
Well, around the July timeframe, it gets pretty hot, so they probably could use a little extra tack during that month.
This is
Anyways,
true.
I will finish off this segment with the gear that I'm repping. I'm repping Sheldon Hanshield for the hat. World of Outlaws starting in Houston, like we said. So he's also a good one to kind of keep an eye on, especially when the big money is on the line. And for the shirt, I am repping good old hot sauce. Issac Hot Sauce Sondrol in the 12S IMC modified. Nothing on the back, just the front. Out of Turtle Lake, who, as we will talk about more in our track pack report, clicked off his first IMCA modified feature win last Wednesday over the Jamestown Speedway. So big congrats out to Issac. That's been 3 years in the making that he's been looking to get that first win in the IMCA modified. And so he was definitely a very happy guy in the pits afterwards. And so big congrats out to Issac for getting that win in the IMCA modified, which transitions well to our next segment, which is our hot sauce hot memory rewind. And don't worry, Jessup, I got your back on this. I only have one for today, but of course, with the mod tour coming up, definitely hit up the Sondrol Snack Shack, Issac Sondrol's pit area, because they have all sorts of goodies and all sorts of food to try throughout the week. I think they're pretty much done with the menu, and they got some pretty good stuff on there from what I've heard. So check out his racing page, 12S Racing, where you can stay up to date on his racing adventures, and be sure to go down and say hi to him in the pits. And thank you, Issac, for your support on the podcast. So I have one photo. This should be pretty simple.
John's got like
sure.
a million of them.
Well, I have a million of them, but they all have like names on them. So I had to like kind of do this on the fly. So this is this just one? This driver, your hint, Jessup, because I'm sure John will get this like that, still races with the same
Marlon
number.
Seidler. That's not Marlon Seidler. Can you back that up just a bit? A little more? Can you bring it back forward? It's very blurry. What number is that? It's too high. 57.
It's
Oh,
a
man.
52.
52. Ooh. Same division?
Yeah, we'll go with the same division.
And it's not a Mandan guy. Is it?
It is not a Mandan guy.
Okay. It's not a Minnesota guy.
It is not a Minnesota guy. It is a North Dakota guy.
IMCA or Wissota?
He races currently IMCA.
John, give me some help here. Is he a West or East?
His
West.
last name is very well known in racing.
He has a son who races in the same class as well.
Son who races in the same. You know what's going to happen? I'm going to
Who ended up rolling this year.
rolling. There's been a lot of people who rolled.
Well, this is true.
It's not Grinstead.
No, Grinstead's 51X, 52. Let's see. What's one
What
more
tracks
hint?
is he at?
Mainly Nodak Speedway.
That doesn't help me. I'm in trouble.
Sometimes McLean County Speedway.
Ooh. 52. Hobby stock. Not a hobby stock. Is it a hobby stock? Okay.
Mhm.
Is it Jason Ruby? No. He's 23.
He's 23. All right, you get one more guess before I give it to John.
Give it to John.
Go ahead, John.
Scott Jordan.
There you go.
Oh, dang it. I should have known that. He did roll this year. First race Nodak. That's right.
Nate.
His son Nate did.
Nate.
Yeah. One of the Jorns rolled.
Yep.
Yes.
And he was rolling wildly
Yes, he did off of turn 3.
until he wasn't, because his car had stopped.
Well, yes, physics took over.
Well, that's a good one, Mason. John, do you have any photos? You were just going through a whole bunch on the Western Roundup.
I was having way too much fun with my background during that Western Roundup segment.
If you want to see some very good classic North Dakota racing photos, go over to our Western Roundup show, which is only a few minutes long, where we cover all the racing out west. And John will be having he's having a ball going through all of his old photos and Charlie's old photos in the background.
Okay, guys, I will bring up 2 here. Here's the first one. I will get out of the way totally of this photo.
Can you zoom in?
Nope, no zooming in.
Hold on. Mason, can we share his screen?
No, I can see it clearly,
I can see clearly now.
and I can name all those drivers in that photo.
Well, I see Scotty Gartner in the back.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I got one. The 33 I should know, I think.
You should name all 7 of these drivers.
Yeah, you should actually.
The 27, is that Wampler? No. Is that Jerry Lamb?
No.
Dang. Okay, Mason, go ahead.
Okay, the
Mason, all
27 is
7.
Eric Paul.
I wouldn't
So-
know him.
So now go to the row behind him, who's on the high
Okay.
side.
I can't tell. Is that a 31 or a 51?
That is a
That's a
51.
51.
Oh, is that John Feist?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, who's down? What's the number beneath him?
5F.
Oh, Zach Frederick. Okay.
Hmm.
What's the one behind him?
15.
33.
Thanks, John.
On the high side's a 33.
All right.
That's
I'll
also
pass
a
him.
Dickinson. That's also a Dickinson driver.
But he does not drive in the same or similar division right now.
33.
Well, Mason, I think most of the Dickinson guys don't drive in the
Only
Wisconsin
33 I
stock division
realize
anymore.
right now
Oh, I
is,
meant like he does not race in like an
Hartman.
IMCA stock
All
car.
right, who's the 33, Mason?
Cole Lewis.
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
The
Okay.
15 is
Go
the car
on,
below
Mason.
him.
Go ahead, Mason.
Tanner Dosh.
Oh, all right,
then-
that's neat.
And then the 21 is below Scott.
21, is that Kelly?
Nope.
Is it the 421?
Nope,
No,
it's just regular 21.
It's just a
Oh,
21.
dang. All right, go
Who
ahead,
drives a
Mason.
421?
It's Matt Dosh.
Oh, for gosh sake.
I mean, look at the 15 and the 21 are the same paint scheme.
I am so bad at this at times.
Now, John, was
How
that?
old is this photo?
I think it's 2015
Oh, well, then I wouldn't see any of these cars.
or 2014.
I think it's 14. It's 2014.
Yeah. Was
Well,
that
maybe
that
it's-
old, Jessup?
Maybe it's
I
15.
wasn't
I'd
even
have to
in North
verify that.
Dakota.
I'd have to double check here. Just give me 2 seconds here, and I'll double check to make
Kind
sure
of a
what
cool
year
photo
this
there,
was.
John.
I know,
I'm gonna
right?
say 2013.
It's not 13. 13 for sure is not that year. That one I
2015.
can for sure say that it's not 13.
I say I have a lot of those pictures in one of my other quotes, but
You're
not
nerds.
we are. It's kind of sad.
We're definitely not nerds.
Oh, hey, as long as we enjoy it, it really doesn't matter.
This is so true.
Yeah.
John's over there. I can tell you the toter in the distance.
I pretty
Actually,
much can actually on that
You
one.
probably could. It's just the
Which one
sad
is it,
part.
John?
Well, just give me a second here. I'm looking up the year. I gotta find out what year it is first.
Oh, that's
Now
cheating,
here,
John.
do you want a really nerdy stat here, John? I think that hauler that's off to the left side of that picture, I think that's
Black one?
Paul Mueller's hauler, isn't it?
Let me look here really quick. I gotta find it.
Because I think it said Mopar on it at one point, right?
Yeah, that's Mueller's hauler over there in the corner.
Because this was during Gov Cup.
It looks like
this would
Gov
be
Cup.
with the challenge. Oh, so this would be
Looks like
challenge
Gov Cup.
series.
Yeah, guys, it looks like from that photo, this picture is from. It looks like it was 2000. I think it was 2014.
Oh,
That
nice.
sounds right. Yeah.
Look at us doing
Yeah,
great.
it looks like 14 is what year it was from.
And that was
Okay.
10 years ago.
Now, actually, let me double check here. Was that 14 or? Yeah, it looks like that was 2014. Now,
I could get my driver cards out and verify.
let's look up another photo here. I'll grab another one for you guys, and we are going to verify who these drivers are
Jessica,
directly
can you
in this
start
photo.
doing this for the Hot Sauce Memory Rewind and changing your background to the photo?
No.
Why
Jessup,
not?
Jessup, you got to get better at that.
Do you see how tired I look? I'm tired.
You've been hanging out with Becca too long.
Probably.
This is so true. So much time with Becca, and you just get exhausted.
I am.
Okay, what class do you guys want to go with?
One that I might know somebody in.
Modifieds.
It's modified time. As Becca would say. Hey, Joey Thomas won this weekend.
There you go, Jessup. Okay, Jessup.
3 cars in this
Hey.
picture.
Look, it's Strand. I know that one.
That's one.
Okay, you say one.
Do you want me to take the more difficult one that's on the high side?
No, I want that one.
Okay, well, the inside
That's
Drew
Johnny
Christensen.
Corral on the high side.
I don't think it is.
It
I
is
can't-
not.
Well, who is it then?
That's Spencer Wilson.
It is.
It doesn't say 75.
It's a blurry 75, but I can
It's a
tell
blurry
because of that
75.
yellow and the red.
Yep. It used to
Johnny
be Spencer
Corral had a
Wilson.
yellow car in red.
This is true, but that wasn't
Well, that's
Johnny
Drew
C's.
Christensen then.
Yes, on the bottom it's Drew.
Yes.
And yep.
And Sean. That's kind of a cool. Move your head, John. I like that look for Sean. That's a cool looking car.
Okay, we're gonna have one last photo.
And
A
that
lot
was
less
when he had a
glare
Taylor
after
chassis.
John moved.
Okay, now I gotta get back up so I can find my picture here.
Oh my gosh, it's the moon.
Man, that was when Taylor cars were all the rage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No pun
Yes.
intended.
Yes, but I mean there was a lot of Rage chassis back then. A lot of Rage chassis.
Yeah.
No, Rage is, well, if we're talking Taylor cars, that's Jet, isn't it?
No, are you thinking
No,
like Shaw?
no. I'm thinking Jeff Taylor's car. Yeah. I don't need to know about chassis right now.
Who do we got, Jessup?
Okay, what year, guys? I'll tell you, it was 2000. The
17?
year, no, 2000
No.
and
I'm gonna that looks like Hunter Dacotah. Or
That
that
Tracy
is Don McCall on the bottom.
Hunter
Yep.
Dacotah. Well, who's in the middle?
Jerry Lamb's in the middle.
Oh,
Yes.
was Hunter about to be silenced? Or was
Maybe.
Hunter about to be hunted by the ram?
And then it's hard to tell who's on the
Is
high
that Jeff
side.
Hellman?
No, that
It
one's
looks
gonna be
like
hard
his
for you
car.
guys. I know who's on the high side,
I
but
think I want to guess Jeremy Englehart, but I don't think that's right.
Oh,
no, it's hard to see on the high side because of just the way the car is. It's kind of positioned on the high side up there. And I'll just let you guys know it's Austin Geigel in the 44.
of
Because of
course.
there's Schwinn construction
course.
on the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that was from 2018.
18
Was the year of that photo.
comes off here. Fancy.
And then the last one is who is this?
A
Lon.
wild Australian in the outback.
That is what we would call a photographer in his element.
Yes, it's Lane Mutter from LPT Images.
What was that, John? I can't hear you.
You're off center of the mic. There you go.
It was Lane Mutter from LPT Images.
LPT Images, Lane Mutter.
You can tell him I said that he looked like an Australian in the outback in that photo. He'll get a kick out of that.
So yes,
Well,
that
great.
is our.
And that's
Memory
Rusty
wheel.
Wallace in the background.
It is. From what
It is
year?
Rusty. Yep. What year?
1992.
I was gonna say
What year?
93.
96.
Dang it.
But if we take 2 times 3, Mason and I combined to get it right. 96.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure. Anyways, that is our hot sauce hot memory rewind wacky twist that it took today. So we'll move on to the track pack report. I'm going to be talking a lot during this segment, but John, you were in Jamestown along with myself and Becca for their fair night, a Wednesday night. So that was a little bit different. What were your takeaways from fair night, as it was a full week ago now?
Yeah, it was a full week ago. It was warm. It was a nice night for racing action, and the track was smooth, but it became very dry.
Yeah, I got to
So-
try real quick. And I mean, they were
Yes.
moving through heats pretty dang quick, and like there wasn't much cloud cover, so the sun was definitely beating down, which definitely accelerated that.
Yes, for sure. So what were your takeaways, Mason? You were over there.
Well, I got to sit in the infield for the heat races, and like I said, like the heat races went by pretty quick, and then the features kind of came out. I was hoping to have a little bit more time in between to put like GoPros on, but they kind of had a short intermission just because of the fair. I think they wanted to get people out and kind of get out onto the fair, so that way they could experience like the rides and all the food and stuff like that. And so, once features got going, there was a lot of cautions throughout the night.
Yeah.
And
Except for the
basically all the
streets.
classics except for one.
Yeah, the streets ran clean and green. I mean, they basically were done in the matter of about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Otherwise, it was there's a lot of carnage. Well, not major carnage, but just a lot of contact and
A lot of beating and banging.
yeah. So
So yeah,
no shortage of action on Wednesday night.
this is true. So your feature winners. So in your slingshots, it was Caden Davenport. Congratulations to him. First trip over to Jamestown this year out of the Bismarck area. It's Terry Davenport's son, and he ended up picking up a feature win in the slingshots. Then in your hobby stock division, it was Travis Ettinger who held off Kelly Horner to pick up the feature win. That is actually Kelly's third second place finish in 4 races over in Jamestown this year. So Kelly's had a very nice start to his season. In your Midwest Modifieds, Jaron Wimstead picked up his first feature win of the year over there, and it was Xander Compson in second. In the Legends, my heart goes out to Colin Compson, who had that race basically kind of under control until his engine expired with about 5 laps remaining. And you could tell because he was starting to slow down on the straightaways, he would pull him out of the turns, and then they would just catch him immediately down the straightaway, and eventually that engine went right in front of the flag stand. It just went kapoop right
I was
then
gonna say,
and there.
what was the word?
Kapoop. That was our word of the week, by the way, that we had to use on the mic. Used it multiple times, and it did it right by the flag stand with only a few laps remaining. So Preston Martin inherited the lead, picked up the win, and then it was Gage Madler who picked up second, and his brother Noah was in third. In the street stocks, they went clean and green, and KCU Status had a stranglehold on that feature event. He was over a half a straightaway ahead of Jody Michelson, who picked up second, and Kelly Hoggle was right there in the top 3. So it was KCU Status, and the street stock points. I actually just looked at them here and in Jamestown, and I think the top 3 right now are only like 7 or 8 points apart. So pretty close point standings in your streets right now in Jamestown. In your modifieds, that was a ratio of attrition. It was a lot of attrition in your modifieds. Especially the track had rubbered up by the time the mods were for sure coming out, and it was a battle basically to kind of save tires, but also save your engine. And Jaden Christ was looking like he might pick up his first modified feature win of his career, and he blew the motor going through turns 1 and 2 with only a few laps remaining. So tough break for Jaden. As that is an old chassis that he's running over there too, but looked really good. And Jaden retired with a blown motor. That handed the lead over to Hot Sauce, one of our supporters here of the podcast, and Isaac Sondrol held off the chicken nuggy buggy of Scotty Gardner and picked up his first career IMCA modified feature victory. So congratulations to Isaac. Big win over in Jamestown as Scott Gardner was second. And they finished the night a little bit after 10 o'clock, and we got home at a reasonable time on that Wednesday.
Yep, nice quick night over at Jamestown. Definitely enjoyed being over there on a weekday. A little bit different than normal. Have a different crowd on hand. I will ask you, like with Kelly Horner, I think you mentioned his like third, second place finish. Has he won a feature in Jamestown before?
Never. Kelly has never won a feature over in Jamestown. In the old super stock days back in the day, and the street stock days, there was one year at the Stampede that Kelly was right there. He finished top 5 in the street stock feature event that year and raced his way to the front and had a really, really good car that year. I think he actually started deeper in the field too. He started right around maybe that 16th area, somewhere in that range, and finished in 4th. And he had a really good Stampede that year. But besides that, he's come close in the streets before. And now that he's in the hobby stock division, he's come very close in that division as well, but he is just right there, but he has yet to pick up that win. So
Well,
I actually went down and talked to him in Victory Lane because I was doing photos, because the track photographer that does all of our Facebook photos for Victory Lane, Leslie Tarno, she's doing well, but she had knee surgery on that Wednesday and was not able to make it to the track. She was in recovery, and I was down there and I got to Kelly's car, and he looks at me, he's like, I let it get to me. I let my head get to me during that period of time. But no, he was kind of beating himself up, but he still finished second in that feature event to Travis Ettinger.
Well, I mean, you keep putting yourself in position to win like he was doing, and he was tracking down Edinger for that win. I mean, I think he was fast or just couldn't find a way to get around him.
Correct. He went high, he went low. They tried to switch up lines and just couldn't get around him.
Yeah, so keep working on it, Kelly. I'm sure that win in Jamestown will come here sooner rather than later. So that was Wednesday. Thursday, I went over to the Norman County Raceway, and there was their meet and greet night. So definitely a good turnout of fans and kids ready to go meet the drivers at intermission. They had their regular car classes, including Wissota Midwest Mods, IMC Racer Sprints, Sport Mods, Stock Cars, Hobby Stocks, and the NX Legends. And they had a total of 73 cars, so a pretty good field on hand for a Thursday night show. Midwest Mods kicked things off with Matt Scowen, the 2S out of Macintosh, pretty much putting a stranglehold on the field there. And so starting off the weekend on a strong note for the 2S machine. The Race Saver Sprints also went clean and green in their feature event with Andy Pake out of Felton, Minnesota, picking up the win there. Sport Mods had a really good race between one of the new drivers that I was just becoming familiar with this past week. His name is James Taves. He's out of Glendon. And so he was up there leading several laps, holding off the likes of Ryan Restad and Scott Jacobson, but it was Jaden Pavlicek, the son of Rich Pavlicek, who actually moved his way through the field and got the feature win in front of Ryan Restad. So big congrats out to Jaden Pavlicek, who's looking really good in that sport mod to start 2024. These stock cars had a nice clean and green race as well. One of our supporters, Brody Carlsrud, started on the front row, was leading that entire race. However, you had the cheetah, Rob Van Mill, kind of just stalking him on the high side as Brody was kind of like working the low groove, and he was holding him off as long as he could, but unfortunately with 2 laps to go, Rob made the winning pass around the outside. Brody had to settle for second, but a really good race in your IMCA stock cars as well. Your hobby stocks got a little bit interesting at the end. So when you think IMCA hobby stocks in the Red River Valley, you think of the B2 of Brody Eckert, and he started up front, so it's just like, all right, well, good luck to anyone trying to catch him. Well, as it turns out, he had a couple guys kind of chasing him down. He had Chase Peterson out of Malacca, Minnesota, and also Reed Randall out of Park Rapids. And Chase had some unfortunate circumstances where he kind of pushed off the track and spun out, and so that was the end of his race. But Reed Randall got alongside him on the last lap. They were beating and banging in 3 and 4 a little bit, and it ended up with Reed Randall beating out Brody Eckert to the line for his first career IMCA hobby stock win. So big congrats out to the 95 of Reed Randall. And then your NX Legends finished off the night, and they had a really nice field of legends. They had 22 checked in, 21 took the green. And so very strong field, and that race was fun to watch because you had like a pack of 7 or 8 that were kind of jockeying for position up front. Shout out to Cody Jawalski, who started on the pole, led several laps throughout that feature race. It was looking really good, holding off the legs of Ryan Bross, Ty Wilkie, and Ty Olson, who Ty Olson got to the lead, and then he had to try to hold off Ty Wilkie. They made a little contact on the back straightaways. They maneuvering through lap traffic, and it's like, where's the call going to go? Well, they ended up calling it on the 72 of Wilkie, which gave Ty Olson the lead on a green-white checkered, which would have been interesting to see with Ryan Brossett behind him. But they wadded up 6 to 7 cars in turn 1 and 2 on that restart, which basically ended the race at that point. So Ty Olson picked up the win in front of Cody Macart and Ryan Brossett to finish out the night at Norman County on Thursday. So very good night of racing at Norman County. Track was in great condition, a lot of moisture, and a lot of great racing. So they have a big weekend coming up this weekend that we will talk about a little bit later. So then we move on to the Friday action, and I'll hand it off to the Bismarck gang for their update on Dacotah Speedway. What all happened out there, Jessup?
Go ahead, John.
Okay, so Friday night for us, it was a pretty quick night. We didn't have stock cars as the McLean County Speedway up in Underwood had a $1,000 to win stock car show. So stock cars were off on Friday night. We still had a pretty good car count. We were over 90 cars in the pits total over there on Friday night, which if we back up Mason 2 to Wednesday over in Jamestown, they had 94 cars during their fair night. So, really good car count over there in the midweek show too. But I think we had 92 or 93 is what we ended up with in Mandan. But no, super, super good night overall. It was very interesting when you looked at it from kind of our feature divisions because we actually had quite a bit of carnage in the features. The legends were about the only class, and the modifieds were the 2 classes that were pretty clean kind of throughout the whole entire night. But your sport compacts, they were beating and banging. And your hobby stocks, they were really beating and banging during their feature event. It was hard for them to get a couple laps in sometimes to even get that race going and finishing. Yeah, it was just a battle of attrition for sure in your hobby stock division. And that's what I kind of saw from the grandstand side, from the announcers booth. And Jessup, what did you kind of see from the camera side?
It was a lot of chaos. It seemed like just about every feature could not find a way to go smooth until the mod feature. And the mod feature had a couple cautions as well, but really good mod feature. Great battle between Quentin and Marlin. I thought that was really good. But track itself for the night, I thought was really smooth, really good. If you're a fan of smooth tracks, then Dacotah Speedway is probably where you're going to want to be at. If you're a fan of super heavy, tacky tracks, I don't really recommend Dacotah Speedway because there's not going to be a lot of character on the track besides it being one bad, fast, and super smooth speedway. But I don't know. It was really weird, as you kind of mentioned, John. Every feature just seemed like all the drivers couldn't help but step on themselves.
Yeah, you kind of had drivers kind of going every which way, even in a lot of the features that you kind of wouldn't expect that from a lot of those drivers that were kind of up front that kind of, were either fell deeper in the field or went off the track or kind of spun out sometimes on their own. It's kind of an interesting night overall from a feature perspective. But sport compacts, we had 11 sport compacts check in to Dacotah Speedway on Friday, so really good car count. And it was a battle up front between Zach Eubanks and Alex Thompson. So those two drivers were pretty close at the line after their feature finish. I would say a couple more laps, and Alex might have got Zach for that feature win, but Zach picked up his first feature win. And there was some carnage in that race. There was definitely some fenders, doors, rear ends that were left on the back straightaway. So during that feature, because there was a big hit that happened in the middle of that race.
It
Everybody was
sounded
okay,
like a
but
gunshot.
yes, it did when
I
it all
was
happened, because all of a
looking.
sudden they're with the rear end.
I was looking in corners 3 and 4 with the camera following the leader, the battle for the lead, and I think it was right at the end. Was it right at the end when we had
No,
that
it was
big?
close. It was kind of in the middle, kind of right in the
Okay,
middle of
yeah.
that feature. Hmm.
And I'm looking, and
But
all
yeah,
of a sudden, through my headset, 'cause I can hear John talking, I can hear just the cars themselves, and all of a sudden I hear, "Wow!" And I'm just like,
so yep,
and then there was carnage
yeah, and then you heard the words carnage. That was me saying carnage,
and kapow or
and
kapoop or
and kapow
whatever.
and kapoop, and I was like, there went the car, and it went kapoop over there in turns 2, 1, and 2. So, but no, so Zach Eubanks won the sport compacts in your hobby stock division. And that was the race that definitely had problems getting going and staying going. Um, there was probably even some drivers in that race that would say it was more like a demolition derby than it was kind of a race. It was definitely some beating and banging in the hobbies. But no, it was Derek Appert who picked up a win over in your hobby stock division. And Derek hasn't run a whole lot this year. He's been in the field quite a bit. He's ran a few races down in Wishick, and now he's ran 2 races over at the Dacotah Speedway in Mandan, and he had a second, and now he's got a feature win underneath his belt in that hobby stocks. And I checked points in the hobbies, and they're pretty close in your hobby stock division right now too. Really close points over at Dacotah Speedway in your hobbies. In your legends, it was kind of the tale of two drivers that kind of came from deeper in the field. So Preston Martin, once you get him on the high side of Dacotah Speedway, he's pretty much gone, and he went to the high side. He had a couple drivers that went up there with him. Austin Weist started 14th, went up to the high side too. You had Nate Keene on the bottom, and Nate looked really good. He's getting that car figured out on the bottom part of the track too, and Preston kind of worked his way through the field. He had Ryan Erdahl in front of him at one point. Erdahl slipped up in 3 and 4 and almost went over the banking, allowed Preston to get by, and then Michael King was right there as well. And Preston got around him coming out of turn 2 down the back straightaway with about 14 laps to go. And so it was Preston that ended up winning. Austin Weiss got up to second. He looked really loose after that. He actually finished 5th at the line overall for that feature event. But the Mather boys were right there as well. And it was definitely something that was a very interesting race, because that Legends feature, they worked the high side to almost the rim. So they were literally pretty far up on the track in your legends, which we don't see them typically way up on the high side at Dacotah Speedway. They're a little bit farther down, maybe 2 grooves or 3 grooves down almost from the high side. Typically even when they're running the high line, but they were pretty much right there on the high side on Friday night. And then the mods came out, and like Jessup said, it was kind of the tale of two drivers again. Last week it was Quinton holding off Marlon, and this week it was Marlon trying to hold off Quinton, and Quinton got a run around him with only about 6 laps remaining. He was kind of tracking him each and every lap. Lap traffic was definitely a play in that race too, because any time that Quinton would catch Marlon, the lap traffic was kind of in Quinton's line more than Marlon's line. So Quinton would have to kind of change it up and work around him, and then he kind of fell back to almost a second behind Marlon with about almost 10 laps to go. And then he started tracking him down because he got a little bit of clear track, and he made the pass for the win with about 5 to go. And they were side by side with 4 to go, and Quinton finally got the run off of turn 2, and stayed ahead of Marlon, and able to pull away a couple car lengths there at the feature finish. But back-to-back wins for Quinton. He looks really good in that car over there at Dacotah Speedway so far. I would actually be very excited to see if Quinton runs multiple shows on the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. Kind of the theme here this year, guys, and you'll kind of agree with me a little bit of this too. There's several drivers this year that I've noticed they have 2 different cars. So they'll run multiple cars at different tracks, right? We've seen it multiple times. For instance, Phil Chrislip in the Midwest Modifieds. He's got 2 different cars that he runs. He's got a small track car. He's got a bigger track car. Donovan Weist, 2 different cars. Small track car, bigger track car. And Quinton is set up that same way. Quinton, Jeremy Keller is like that. They've got a couple cars that they run to where Quinton is modified that he runs on bigger tracks. It's set up for more of like the Dakota Speedway, maybe like the Nodak Speedway in Minot. And then he's got the car that he runs maybe at like Southwest Speedway in Dickinson. He's already run it over in Jamestown once this year over the Jamestown Speedway. So I'd be curious to see if Quinton runs more of the tour this year too. And hopefully he does, and he's able to come out to some of those other tracks throughout the state. But yeah, kind of interesting this year when you kind of look at it a little bit for some of the drivers. And I know, Mason, we were kind of talking about it here this past week, and it looks like one of our friends north of the border will be on tour more likely this year too. Will be Austin Doe, and Austin has a brand new stock car that we saw a picture of that was sitting kind of right by his trailer. He had actually both cars in the photo, and he's also got a second car that looks like is primed and ready to go here for the maybe the tour upcoming here in 2024.
Yeah, I think the next couple weeks is going to be interesting to see kind of like where drivers are racing and what car they decide to race, because I'm sure there might be a little bit of testing and tuning, so to speak, before the modular hits in just a couple weeks. So yeah, I was just taking a look at the modified points in particular, and those are pretty close too. I like how Mark Dahl is leading the points, and he hasn't won a feature yet this year.
Speaking of multiple cars, Mark Dahl has multiple cars that we have seen. He's got his Flamin' Black one that we're accustomed to seeing at Dacotah Speedway, and then he's got a brand new white number 1 that we saw over in Jamestown, saw it over in Southwest, and yeah, so that car, it looks very nice here for the season too, and it's nice to see Mark out and traveling around. He's been to Jamestown already this year. He's been to Minot already this year. He's been over at Southwest already this year. So hopefully he does more of the tour this year too. That would be a good addition to pick up.
It is different seeing him in a white car though.
Oh, it was really, really, really strange the first night. He pulled in over in Jamestown on the 25th, and that was the night that we had the Rebel Tour and had a big car count. I think, what do you have, 154 cars that night? It was a big night of racing action over there in Jamestown. And it was very interesting because Mark came out for his heat, and I kind of did a double take because I was like, his car, you guys will kind of agree with me on this one too. It didn't have that typical paint scheme. It was all white. It very much didn't look like his, but it was all lettered up already and everything. And yeah, it was a very nice chassis, but a brand new car for him too. In that number 1 machine over there in Jamestown, and he's probably getting that car figured out a little bit here too for some bigger shows upcoming this year.
Yeah, so it'll be a nice busy couple of weeks, hopefully for the modifieds and stock cars getting ready for the Dakota Classic Modified Tour. So it'll be nice to see who gets out there and gets primed and ready to go. So I'll kind of wrap up the Track Packer report, as it was basically I was following the Rebel Midwest Modified Tour this past weekend, and luckily enough, we got all 3 races in, which before the weekend started, and I don't think everyone was kind of banking on getting all of the races in, but I'm really happy because like the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour has had such terrible luck weather-wise over the last couple of years. So like any races we can get in, I'm just like so happy for them to kind of get some racing and some big racing that takes place. And so they were at I-94 on Friday, Viking Speedway on Saturday, and Buffalo River on Sunday. Friday, they had a really good car count at 30 cars over there in the Midwest Modifieds. I'll go quickly through the results there. The other classes, which actually was a very, very quick night at I-94. I think we were done just before 10:15. So super quick on Friday night. Street Stocks went to Ty Egan. It was basically a race between him and Eric Riley, who was going to get to the front the first, and Ty Egan got to the front first, although he had to work hard to get around Greg Platzer, who actually looked really good on Friday night in the Street Stocks. So Ty Egan starting off the weekend, or second night of his weekend, with the win over 994. The Gen X late models, winner was originally Dustin Bloom in the 18A. Now, it was a weird situation because he was in Mike Anderson's Gen X late model. And I think there was like a little confusion that they signed in underneath Mike Anderson's name. And so when I interviewed Dustin Bloom in Victory Lane, I was like, well, this is weird. And so he actually ended up getting disqualified, which handed the win over to Adam Preve in the 9 machine. So a little bit weird situation in the Gen X late models, but Dustin Bloom was shaking down the car for Mike Anderson, looked pretty good out there, but win credited to Adam Preve. Modifieds went to Dusty Bits in the 10X, who had to work very hard to get around the 18A of Landon Atkinson. Those guys put on a great show running side by side for several laps there before Dustin pulled ahead and got the win there. And then Hornets went to the 08 of Jeff Roner from Wilmer, who has been on a hot streak over there in I-94 and also at the Viking Speedway. He's been putting up some big, strong runs there. Midwest Modifieds, of course, 30 cars. Track was getting pretty slick, but you could still race multiple grooves. And John will know this firsthand, seeing at the Wissota 100, when the track gets slick, especially for Midwest Modifieds, you got to look for the Nightmare Lucas Rodin. And he didn't take long to get to the front, and he pretty much helped serve the entirety of that race. And so Lucas Rodin claiming another Rebel Mod Tour win in front of the 71 of Nate Ranke and Matt Scout in third, who came from 13th up to that third place position. So great run for Matt Scout in the 2S on Friday. Moving on quickly to Saturday, that was an interesting day because the forecast was not great. We had where I was in Fargo, there was no moisture. On the radar, there was nothing on the radar in Alexandria. However, there was a persistent mist that was going on for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So that was an interesting thing to deal with. And so we started a little later than planned, or in Alexandria, but kudos to the crew there. They got everything worked in. We started just a little before 7 o'clock, and we're still out of there by about 9:20. So they know how to run a quick show over there in Alexandria, even when Mother Nature decides to throw a silly curveball. You guys have been to races when it's been misting. It is super annoying because you'd almost just rather have it rain at that point. Just like what are you trying to do? Whether like Mother Nature was just on something on Saturday.
I wonder why.
Well, yes, both Kayla and I were in attendance for that.
John?
Yeah, the rain people were truly in attendance, and they were even bringing rain that wasn't even on the radar to the race track. What a surprise.
And that was before we even left Fargo that happened.
I think people like Zach Johnson should reach out to Mason when their fields
I
are
agree.
dry. I think instead of a whole series on the Millennial Farmer, it should be a whole series on the Rainmakers.
I do not disagree with you.
I agree.
Especially considering the fact that, with how much added moisture those two bring to a given track, it's amazing. So I actually, and the only way, there's really no way to control Mason. Mason is just out of control. And Hurricane Kayla, she's even more out of control, but you might be able to calm her down with a little bit of candy. So on Wednesday, when she was over in Jamestown, I had throw in some candy at her to keep her calm during the night.
So, John, would you say instead of track packers, Kayla and Mason are the tack packers?
Tack packers or track wetters is probably the better word.
By the way, Jessup, he's not kidding. He actually threw candy at Kayla on Wednesday.
I am not surprised by this. John does owe me at least a full bag of Tootsie Rolls, and I'm still waiting for my Tootsie Rolls, John.
I know. I have actually got a bag ready for you. I mean,
Do
I have
not
to
throw
bring them
them
to
at
you.
me.
So I promise I will not throw them at you.
Well, back to the Saturday recap, and yes, there was some tack in the track, and it really didn't leave the entire night. It was fast and pretty hammered down for the night. Street stocks, which they normally go second, they went first this time. Justin Vogel started on the front row, and again, it's just like, well, good luck passing him. Well, he actually had a rocker, one of the rockers in his engine kind of let loose, and so he was under power. He was on 7 cylinders for the last half of that race, and Scott Horn in the 24X was trying to make the pass on him and couldn't quite do it, as Vogel was pretty strong through the corners and he would gain back on him on the straightaway. Justin did end up hanging on for the feature win over at Viking Speedway on Saturday in the street stocks. Hornets went to the 22 of Matthew Dittman. Caution free affair. He got out front and pretty much set sail from there while they battled for second on back. No one could really touch the 22 of Matthew Dittman. Neither in the super stocks could anyone touch the 13 of Matt Miller. Another clean and green race. Got out to the front right away and just cruised on into the sunset. So big win for Matt Miller in the 13M. And mods, when you have a tacky and slightly characterized track, you would want to watch out for the Cowboy Travis Sauer because he loves that type of track. And he got out front. He didn't run away. Dusty Bitson was kind of tracking him down, was kind of hoping they were going to get into lap traffic to see how they were maneuver, but they didn't quite get to lap traffic in time for Dusty to make a move. And that was another caution-free race for the modified. So big congrats out to the Travis Sauer in the 21X. I personally think the race of the weekend was the Midwest Modifieds at Viking. They had a caution on lap 1, but then ran the last 19 laps clean and green. And what was really cool about this is typically on a half mile, you get like everyone spread out and you don't get a whole lot of passing or side-by-side action. Well, like we were 10, 15 laps into the run, you had this group of 6 to 8 cars all within like a couple seconds of each other. And so a lot of moving and shaking, a lot of passes for the lead. Taylor Bitson and Ray Stenberg were a couple of those exchanging the lead a couple different times in the beginning stages. Slowly but surely, though, Corey Stork in that 57, who had a terrible redraw. I think he drew like the worst number, 8. And so, no, worst number was 9, but still started 8th. One by one was working his way through the field and finally made the pass on Reese Stenberg with just 3 laps to go to get a big win for the Rebel Mod Tour. Reese did hang on to second, and Taylor Bitson was your third place finisher. Haley Dykoff came from 13th up to 4th, so a very strong run for her. And I actually think she was one of the fastest cars on the track outside of the 57. I think she would have had something to say for that top 3 had there been a couple more laps. And so that was the night over at the Viking Speedway on Saturday. Sunday, we had no moisture to speak of, so we were clear of that for at least one night. By the way, was there any precipitation in the area on Friday night? Because I didn't realize that there was moisture or rain in the forecast around Fargo, because had I known that they were under a rain delay, I could have made it back for the late models at Red River Valley.
Yeah, there was a little bit for sure. No, there was some stuff to the north of us and then also some stuff over to the east of us that built up.
Okay, yeah, that was another one. I was not aware of that. I got back into town. I'm just checking results on my race pass. I'm like, they're not done in West Fargo. What the heck happened? It's like, oh, they were on like an hour rain delay or something. I'm like, well, dang, if I would have known, I would have really hightailed it back because I would have made the entirety of that late model race, which was a pretty good race from what I heard. But Sunday, we finished things out at the Buffalo River Speedway with 74 cars in attendance. Lightning Sprints went to Kate Taves. She dominated that race, lapped all the way up to, I mean, there was 9 cars, but she almost lapped up to second place at one point. I think a couple more laps and she would have lapped up to second place. So big win for Kate Taves in the Lightning Sprints. With Soda Street Stocks, again, Ty Agan got the win, not without some adventure. His left front lower ball joint broke with about 3 laps to go after he had about a straightaway lead, and it quickly diminished within a span of 2 laps. And had there been one more lap, I think the outcome would have been much different. But Tyagan did hang on for the win in the street stocks. Hobby Stocks went to the 13C at Chase Peterson from Malacca, Minnesota, dominated that race as well. He's been racing up here in the Red River Valley quite a bit. The short trackers went to Weston Clausen, who took advantage of Dayton Kent and Hunter Goulet getting together for the lead, and he snuck around both of them to claim the feature win in that class. Sport mods went to the 8 of Justin Jones out of Bemidji, and also in the Rebel Midwest mods, Justin Jones took the win there as well. So he doubled up on the night, and he is undefeated as part of the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour over at Buffalo River Speedway. He's 3 for 3 there on the events they've had there. Jared Klein ended up in second, and Jory Berg was your third place finisher. And so that, my friends, is the Track Packer report from this past weekend. A full slate, 5 straight nights. We'll see how many nights we get in this upcoming weekend as we transition into what's upcoming next in the state of North Dakota with Mr. Jessup Pelkey of Dakota Dirt.
And again, race fans, if you want to, you do have to look at Dakota Dirt. It is your one-stop shop for everything in North Dakota racing news, results, recaps, and much more. Again, they do have weather forecasts on there as well. They are on social media platforms, so check them out on Facebook as well as dakotadirt.org. And Jessup, take it away.
Well, John, it's going to be a busy weekend for Mother Nature to play her part and make sure that nobody gets an advantage over anybody else. But outside of that, it looks like a nice little lineup of races for everybody. Starting Thursday, the Tri-County Speedway will be racing in action. Looking at Friday, it is only the River City Speedway and Dakota Speedway racing this Friday, as it got announced earlier this week that the Red River Valley Speedway is not racing due to unforeseen scheduling conflicts at the fairgrounds. So that is kind of an interesting one, but those things happen. On Saturday, the Devils Lake Speedway is racing along with Jamestown and the River City Speedway and Estevan Motor Speedway. And then finally, Sunday is the Nodak Speedway. So yeah, nice little weekend of racing. And a little only reason why River Cities is doing 2 nights is that it's their fair weekend. So a lot of good times to be had up at the River City Speedway this weekend.
Try to remember, which night do they have buses?
I think it's Saturday.
Right? Is it Saturday?
It's the 22nd, I believe.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know that's a very popular night. Bus races are always bringing the crowds, especially the Cedar Lake is like the prime example of bus races just packing the stands, which it just always fascinates me.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been there for 1 or 2 of their bus races, and it's insane. There's a line. They park their cars around the track, which they can do with how the track is laid out, but I think they park them like days in advance.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like if you're able to find pictures online, race fans, and just look at a crowd on a bus night at Cedar Lake, it's insane. Absolutely insane.
From what I was told, Mason, Cedar Lake, that is their biggest night of the year. Bigger than the USA Nationals, bigger than the Masters, bigger than any of the special races that they have. That night brings in the most money. And fans.
Yeah. It's crazy. Kind of backwards for us dirt track racing people to kind of think about.
Yeah, but you know what? They're right around the cities, and they get all this communities nearby to participate with a local school bus. And they're going after not the general race fan, but more so a casual person who just wants to support their school and their community. So it's a really cool deal to see in the end, you know.
Yep. So bus racing, I think, taking place over at River Cities on Saturday. And also, speaking of buses, we also have bus racing over at the Norman County Raceway this Saturday, as well as they are having their fair starting tomorrow on the 20th. So definitely it's starting to be fair season. Of course, we just had the Stutzman County Fair this last week, and so kind of that time of year where you can kind of gorge yourself in fair food if you so choose to. Also racing tomorrow is the KRA Speedway to kick off the weekend as per usual. Norman County Raceway is racing with the Rebel Midwest Modified Tour on tap. Friday, we have the Brown County Speedway in Aberdeen, along with the Fiesta City Speedway in Montevideo, Minnesota. The NLRA late models are over at I-94 Speedway on Friday the 21st. Princeton Speedway is scheduled to host the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour as well. So Friday has a lot of action ready to go. Saturday, Madison Speedway has the Rebel Midwest Modified Tour, their first race with the Rebel Midwest Modified Tour. Miller Central Speedway is also back in action, along with the North Central Speedway in Brainerd. Ogilvy hosting the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. Rice Lake Speedway and Victory Lane Speedway up in Winnipeg racing on Saturday once again. And Sunday, Bemidji Speedway has their Meet the Drivers night. Buffalo River Speedway also has a $5 general admission night for fans, and so that's a big popular night for them. Casino Speedway caps off the weekend for the Rebel Midwest Modified Tour, and Granite City Motor Park caps off the weekend for the Dirt Race Central Street Stock Tour. So we will see how much Mother Nature lets us play for this weekend, but a lot of good racing set to take place.
Yep, and John, isn't it the Mary Vetter hobby stock kickoff this weekend?
Yep, no, it is. They kick off in Jamestown on Saturday night, and then they go to Mandan on the 28th of June. And then they wrap up over at Tri-County on the 11th and 12th of July. So that's going to be kicked off for that 4-race series in memory of Mary Vetter.
Speaking of, I had a question of the week coming in from Brandon Vetter asking, who do you think is going to be the champion of this year's Mary Vetter Hobby Stock Challenge?
Ooh, that's kind of a hard one to answer, but boy, I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna give my pick for champion, but I'm gonna do my dark horses first. I'm gonna give you 3 dark horses, and I'm gonna do a champion. Because for a top 5 for points, right?
It's only 4.
Okay, Becca.
So
Let me pick the people.
yeah, I'm gonna pick everyone. No, I'm joking. So here's what I'm thinking. I am
If they
thinking
have
that
4 tires and a helmet,
Yes,
they have a
right.
chance.
Right. Okay, so here's basically I think your 4 dark horses, kind of maybe that, that'll be there. But then obviously this will be kind of who I'm thinking champion might be. So dark horses, I'm going to go with Kelly Horner is one of them for my dark horse. Josh Rourke, if he runs the whole tour, he's going to be my second dark horse. So right there's 2 of them. Derek Appert, he's another dark horse for me, depending on how many races he runs. So again, that's 3 of my dark horses. And
Pick my 2 winners.
so in my 4th dark horse within this area would be Dylan Sandberg, if Dylan ends up running most of the tour. So those are going to be kind of my dark horses.
Is there anyone left, Mason?
My potential champion that I'm thinking will be champion, I'm going to go with Asher Williams. That's going to be the driver that I'm going to pick that would be potentially the champion for 2024. Now, Joseph, you can pick a completely different champion. I picked some dark horses and I picked champion. So that I think. And I'll
I
talk to
have
you.
my prediction for champion, but ready. Do you need a little
Go
time?
ahead. Go ahead, Mason.
I think Kelly Horner's going to do it.
Okay.
Asher Williams is also someone I was thinking of. I'm like, yeah, Asher's been pretty quick this year.
Yeah, especially with kind of his win last year during the Mary Vetter at the Dacotah Speedway. That's kind of when he got hot last year. And so and he's been really, really, really fast to start the season.
I like when you guys take all of them. I'll go Derek Appert.
Okay.
If he races everything and doesn't get forced into the fields, I think Derek Appert will be. I mean, I was going to say Asher, but John named off like a dozen people.
I was Becca.
You were our Becca.
I say someone had to be Becca during this podcast.
Where's my beanie?
And the 5X hoodie.
Yes,
Yeah, you said you were gonna wear that tonight.
I know. I have to go grab it. So
Well, anyways, that is our predictions for the Mary Vetter Hobby Stock Challenge, which will kick off this Saturday at the Jamestown Speedway.
Hmm.
As we start to wind down the episode and display the white flag, we will give a shout out to our good friend Brody Carlsrud in the B1 IMSA stock car, who is actually heating up at just the right time right now. Of course, he got
For
his
Montour.
first feature win last week over at the North Central Speedway, and this past weekend had a pair of seconds, second at Norman County and second at Red River Valley. So really good time of the year to heat up, especially because I know he's planning to go on the Dakota Classic Modified and Stock Car Tour as well. And so be sure to check out his podcast, The Real Deal with B1, and check out his racing page, Brody Carlsrud B1 Racing, to stay up to date on all his travels and his results. And thank you so much, Brody, for supporting us on the podcast. We got wins of the week, and we have wins submitted by Miss Becca Pelkey once again.
Okay, so go with Becca first.
Okay, so her first win of the week goes to the 17 of Ty Olson, the NX Legends. Of course, I saw him over at Norman County Raceway, start off the weekend with a feature win there. Actually, no, he raced on Wednesday too, didn't he?
He did. He ran over in Jamestown on Wednesday. Yep.
Yep, so he started on Wednesday, got a win on Thursday, and also won on Friday at the Red River Valley Speedway. So he got a couple of feature wins on the weekend. And so great start, good weekend for Ty Olson, which was there anyone racing Legends on Saturday or Sunday? Because they weren't racing
No.
on Sunday in Buffalo River.
Nope, they were off this weekend besides Friday.
Wow, that's like a weird circumstance. I wouldn't think about that with Legends.
Now, an interesting fact here that I love and I think is a really good thing for the sport as a whole. So we had 37 legends over at the Dacotah Speedway on Friday for our normal regular Friday night racing. And West Fargo had 31 legends over there on Friday night. That's 68 legend drivers in the state. And that class has become, as Becca would say, quite large here and in the state of North Dakota. But it's good to see because there's a lot of young drivers in that class that are working their way up, like Ty Olson, and is going to be, one of those drivers that'll move into a future class and become, one of those drivers that we're going to have around probably for a long time.
When you think about like the Compsons too, are kind of like they're still racing Legends here or there, but they're starting to dabble in other classes. Like Collins now in a stock car, Xander's racing in Midwest Modern's actually looking pretty good in it too. So
yeah. So I know some people just do not like the legend class and just think that it's the worst thing possible. However, it is bringing racing into the state. It's bringing new drivers into the state. It's getting people into their feet wet into a competitive division, and it's growing the racing community as a whole. So throughout that whole situation from a Legends perspective, there is a lot of times now when you watch feature events that some people will say, well, they're really boring. So I don't know what race you're watching because they haven't been boring for the races I've been to from a Legends perspective this year from a feature event perspective. So not everybody's gonna like every single division, understand that to a T. But I'm not appreciative when people go on social media platforms and have to blast that all over the place. And then try to argue with like family members of actual legend drivers or even legends themselves. So they need to a little bit slow their roll a little bit on this whole thing. And sit back, relax. If you don't like them, go down to the concessions and get something to eat. Go down there, get yourself an adult beverage, and come back up and watch the other races.
well said. I agree. I don't know what races they're watching that they think they're boring. So back to Becca's wins. Her second win goes to Adam Goff in the 38 IMCA stock car. Last week, he rolled his car during the Tougher Than Dirt Tour race at McLean County Speedway. He got the car put back together this past week and actually got a couple of wins, including at McLean County Speedway for their fair race and also at the Nodak Speedway this past Sunday. So nice recovery and bounce back for Adam Goff. And then the third and final win went to Zach Hubanks in the IMCA Sport Compacts. He won his first Dakota Speedway victory last Friday and holding off Alex Thompson in what was apparently a very exciting and very action-packed feature race. So those were Becca's 3 wins of the week. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so wins of the week. Here's
Only
my first
3,
one.
John.
I know I'm only going to do three. So my first one is I'm going to take every single winner that won at any track this weekend.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm completely joking. So you see, you only said three, so that was my first. Joking. No, I have to give it to one of our sponsors, Isaac Sondrol, with his first IMC modified win. So good job to Isaac. I mean, Isaac had his first win. He's been knocking on the door and finally broke through for that first win. And congratulations to Isaac. Pretty good tune-up here before you start your Dakota Classic Modified Tour here in just a couple weeks. So good job, Isaac, on a job well done over on Wednesday. So my other win of the week,
That
my
was two,
second win,
John.
that was only one. I've only given him one.
We're not counting
So,
that one. He was
yeah,
being
that first one
silly.
we're not counting. That first one was a complete joke. So the other win of the week that I have to give out there goes to a class as a whole. I'm joking. I'm not going to do a class as a whole. So that would be way too funny if I did a complete class.
Did we
So
black flag him?
I know, right?
He's
Are we
already in the
getting ready
back, so it doesn't really matter.
It's usually Becca that gets black flagged. It's not even usually me that that physically, gets black flagged on certain areas.
Oh, believe me,
So
you'd get
okay, sorry,
black flag. You'd get black flag. That stuff just doesn't make it to air.
so that is so rude, Mason. Just rude. Okay, I have to give it to Corey Stork. Corey Stork is my other one that I'm going through and giving a shout out to. He's one of the best drivers out there in the Midwest modified class over the last couple of years. He's proven himself on there too, and he's done quite well so far in the Rebel Tour, and he's closing that gap to that points lead a little bit from what Lucas Rodin has going into the final weekend here for the Rebel Tour. So good to see Corey to travel around, not Cody. Corey to travel around to these tracks and race a lot of them with us here across the board. So thanks, Corey, for doing all of that racing action. And my final win of the week, it has to go to the driver that swept Friday, that swept Saturday, and then swept Sunday. Ty Agan. Have to give a shout out to Ty. Ty travels each and every weekend with typically the street stock tour. When it's not the street stock tour, he still travels around to different tracks and clean swept on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So congratulations to Ty in his Wissota Street Stock.
John literally stole three of the first wins that I had on my list. I'm so glad I prepared and have ample backups.
I'm running out of backups.
Remember, I took the whole entire winners. Every winner of the weekend I already took.
Well, yeah, that too. Go ahead, Jessup. See if you can take more.
Well, I'm probably going to take at least one from you, maybe two. So to make sure I get it out of the way, I'm going to go with Tucker Peterson with his late model win at Devil's Lake Speedway, being his what I believe is his first late model win. So that's a really big deal for him, I think, and that's kind of a really cool first time win, I think, as well, having his dad in the field. Second one, I'm going to continue on the late model train. We're going to look out west. The Bo Nave took a big late model feature win over at let me see if I have it written down, at the Gallatin Speedway. And for our fans out east, why this is such a big win is because there were 20 cars in attendance. And you start thinking about like bigger races for late models, you think 24, but for a mid-season race, that's a really big turnout for any track. And now, if you start traveling further west, there's not a lot of late models to grab from. So to get 20 cars in one place for one night is a really big deal. And that's a really big win for Bo out at Gallatin Speedway. My last one, I got two people I can choose from here.
Choose wisely.
And what?
Choose wisely.
I know. Do I want to block Mason, or do I just want to pick one from out east?
Either or.
Either or. All right. So I'll go with Terrence Spacek with his Fastlane Superstock Series win over at the Grand Rapids Speedway. It was a great race. He was getting hounded by Shane Sabraski, who had worked his way through a good chunk of the field. And to hold off Shane is no easy feat, but Terrence not a slouch himself, so he's a really good driver and he was up to the task and he currently holds the Fastlane Superstock Points Series lead as we are speaking. So hats off to Aaron.
I actually think I think he's won 3 of the last races
Mhm.
that he's won,
Mhm.
or in
Yes.
that series,
Yeah.
I should say. So I mean, he's really putting together a strong Superstock Series campaign.
Yep.
And I know they've had weather trouble too, and I think they have a few rescheduled races sprinkled throughout the next month or so. So hopefully they're able to get those rescheduled races in throughout the rest of the summer. But yeah, nice set of wins there.
Yeah, Mason, it sounds like some of those drivers or some of the rescheduled dates. I think it's the 27th and 28th of July, or 2 of them that got rescheduled from this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I think July 7th was another one for some
I
reason.
think so too. Yeah, I think that weekend was another one on the 6th, 7th.
Yeah, so definitely they still got plenty of opportunities to try to nail a Superstock Series win, but Terrence Spacek is definitely the guy to beat right now.
And he's been strong the last couple of years. He won some
Mhm.
big year-end specials a couple years back, and he's definitely from that Wisconsin area to where super stocks are pretty heavy hitters from the Wisconsin side. I mean, you got Kurt Myers over there, you got Taryn over there. You should have Shane Kissling over there as well. Shane, a past national champion, actually back into super stock now, and yeah, so there's some pretty heavy hitters over there in that Wisconsin area.
Absolutely. Well, I got 3 more wins. Thankfully, Jessup didn't take any of the remaining wins I had. First one I will actually give to will be to a racetrack. I will give kudos to the Red River Valley Speedway crew on getting the show in last Friday. And this is kind of a theme I've seen throughout this year, especially because they run the Norman County Raceway and Cheyenne Speedway. There's no quit in that group. They will work hard to get the show in for the fans, for the drivers that are in attendance, especially with like a big race such as the NLRA late models in attendance. And so I'm sure a lot of fans were just like, we'll just call it for the night, and they won't get it back in. But they did a really good job of getting that track work back in. It was still really smooth and very racy. So kudos to the track crew there for getting that show completed this last Friday. My second win, I will go over to the McLean County Speedway and give it to Mike Swallers in the 11S for getting the win. I believe it was on Friday night in the IMCA stock cars. Mike is a longtime veteran of the sport and of the class, and it was great to see him back in victory lane for a nice, cool $1,000 to win at the McLean County Fair. So not a bad payday for that guy. And then on Sunday, we had a birthday and a winner on the 21st birthday. Good old Brenner Grinstead in the 51X IMCA Hobby Stock won at the Nodak Speedway, which is not an easy place to win, especially when you have the likes of Caden Appelt, Kyler Satrin, Diesel Rainer, just to name a few. Looked really good this weekend across the board at every track he ran at. And big congrats. I'm sure that was a nice little celebration in the pits afterwards on Sunday.
And Mason, if I'm not mistaken, I know he posted this, or the Jet Racing crew posted this. I think he's going stock car racing next year, isn't he?
He's gonna be, I think he's gonna be. I heard the rumor earlier this year that he eventually wants to get into a stock car, but I think the wheels were in motion, and now I think he's making official that he's gonna be moving to the stock car here in the near future. So that'll be a nice addition to the class. Very talented racer is Brenner Grinstead. So, any other closing thoughts before we wrap up episode number 14?
Yes, I do have a closing thought. So, Mason and Michaela, you two be nice this weekend and
you mean
allow
Kayla.
tracks to race.
Why Michaela?
I
Who's
said Kayla.
Michaela?
Mason and Kayla. Did I say Michaela?
What
said
is
Michaela.
Michaela?
Oh,
What-
okay.
Oh, hold on.
Mason and Kayla. You two. Yes, I deserve caution flag on that one because I actually thought I said Kayla, but I probably did say Michaela. Mason and Kayla, you two be nice. 2 racetracks and allow them to run this weekend. So, yes, you keep your powers in check.
Well, we'll do our best. No guarantees, no promises. Although Jessup was the one that ran through a monsoon earlier this weekend, not me.
And I'm still
And who-
sunburned.
And who caused this monsoon over there
Yeah.
in, the
Mason,
Not me.
eastern part
and
of the state?
Kayla.
Not me. I was like, what? I
I'm
wasn't
pretty
even
sure
on the
that
eastern side of Minnesota this last weekend.
that doesn't make a difference. You were still on the eastern side of North Dakota and you're the closest to Minnesota out of all of us.
By the time that system had already gone through, that you can't blame me for that latest one.
You dumped the rain on Fargo at 5 a.m. in the morning that moved into Minnesota that Jessup ran into.
Yeah, Mason.
And just like that, my caution flag has been revoked.
This
No,
is
it
fair.
hasn't.
This is
Yes, it
fair.
has.
John is right, Justin.
No. No,
The
no.
the appeals committee, which is yours truly, has reviewed the caution flag and it is now revoked.
We don't have
This is
appeals and
this is a
dirt.
caution. A track caused caution. Mason, no caution on John.
Baloney.
This is actually a
track caused
caution on Mason.
Baloney.
Did you just hear what Mason said? We do not have appeals in dirt track racing.
I did not finish my sentence. I did not finish that sentence.
You still said it.
I
I
did
don't
not.
care. I'm going with John on this
I did
one.
not finish the sentence.
Oh, yes, there's proof. It was on the recording.
I will appeal this.
Well, your appeal is overturned because I'm the appeals committee. I heard it.
I don't remember you being on the appeals committee either. This is not
So-
even fair.
Hey,
Yeah.
but I do have
See,
one
the-
other thing
Yes.
for racing this week. We covered it on the Western Roundup. It is the beginning of the Rocky Mountain States Modified Tour, which is a 3-stop, 6-night type of deal, kind of set up like the Rebel Midwest Mod. It goes to a different location 3 different times or 3 different weekends. But this weekend on the June 21st and 22nd, so Friday, Saturday at the Big Sky Speedway, the IMCA Modifieds and the Wissota Midwest Modifieds will be racing the first 2 nights of the 6-night tour. So kind of a cool deal. What's also cool about it for the Midwest Mod guys is that they will be getting paid the exact same amount from what I gathered on the Rocky Mountain States Modified Tour page. They kind of have their payout laid out, and there's some really big Midwest Mod names heading out. Oh wait, that's a different race, but it's going to be a good time. A lot of good drivers are going to be out there. I think it's going to be a really good time for the IMCA Mod guys to get out there. Hopefully, some of the North Dakota guys head west and represent us well. If not, well, there's still going to be a lot of IMCA mods to be racing at those tracks.
Yeah, going to be some great racing taking place out west over the next few weekends. And of course, this weekend, wrapping up the Rebel Midwest Mod Tour, Ada, River Cities, Madison, and Casino. Tight points battle for the top 3 between Lucas Rodine, Nate Ranke, and Corey Stork. And so that'll be fun to see how those 3 battle it out.
Question.
Yep.
Can I dib a winner pick of the week for next week as well? I'm going to say Mother Nature is going to take at least 95 to 100% of the feature wins.
Well, we have a stat guy in this group, and he, I'm sure, will be able to equate that or determine whether that is accurate at the end of next week.
Yes, I will do my calculations and I will also audit them as part of the appeals committee and audit committee here for the Track Packers podcast.
Why are we being audited? This seems so unnecessary. Mason, wrap
But
this
besides
thing up.
that, guys,
Well,
Besides that, guys, we are excited for this weekend. We hope Mother Nature plays nice. We will check the numbers that Jessup provided for us as part of his statistics before next week's episode. And we hope everybody has a great weekend at the racetrack. And Mason, take it away.
Well, with that, that'll do it for episode 14 of season 3 for the Track Packers podcast. As always, be sure to like, share, and comment on our videos and give us a 5-star rating review on Spotify and Apple. Thank you to our sponsors, Hitch Harness, Tyler Hall, Brody Carlsrud in the B1 IMCA stock car, and Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol. Hopefully Mother Nature lets us play a little bit for this weekend, and if so, we will see you out there packing the track.